Hi, good morning. So basically today I'm gonna do some basic training on how I refurb a ZVA1 nozzle. So first thing I do is when I get the nozzle, I first check it for any imperfections basically. So I'll check inside here to see that this thing is still around and that the swivel can basically still go inside here, and it can tighten all the way. And then if it is tightening properly, then I'm happy. And then also what I also check for is the vacuum cap head. So I'll check if this thing is still very round. If it's not round, then basically you can't use it anymore. But then if it is still around, what you can do now is start basically refurbing this thing. So take off the old card, which can be thrown away because it won't be used anymore, and then you can start taking off your card. So 2 screwdrivers. Normally E-stars, sometimes it does come out in flats also, so you'll need 2 flats maybe. So remove these screws. These screws I normally keep because you can reuse them again if they're still in a good condition, if they look neat and the heads are not basically, you know, messed up badly. So that, gonna take out the back screw. Same with this screw. Can be reused again. So just make sure you still have the screw inside here, and then you can check your guard out also. Make sure there's no broken areas in this area and that your holes are still there, and check your pin, your holding pin basically, to see that it is still, you know, not damaged in any way. You can put that aside. Then to take out these pins here on the side, normally if you get them, they are sometimes very tight. These pins are very tightly in. So what I do is I use a hose, basically like a pin that keeps the hoses in, because it fits perfectly inside this holes here, as you can see. And then you can just wiggle them out basically with one of those. So those pins also you can keep them because they are basically reusable. And I take a flat screwdriver, put it under my trigger and just pop it out like that, and it comes out. So after taking your trigger out, you can also visually inspect it to see that it is still in good condition. But this one you can see is in a very bad condition. So this one you can just chuck up. Alright, then come to the lever gland. So you're going to need a circular pliers to get inside this small circle over here. What I normally do, I wait till it's basically in properly and I push down, and then it should pop out easily like that. Alright, so this is your circle. This you can also check visually if it's still in a very good condition. If it's not, change it out with a new one. Then I pop out my lever gland and my spacer, and you can also visually check this also to make sure that it is in a not in a bad condition. So I'll show you what the new one looks like. And this is the new one, and this is the basically the old one. And then I'll show you also an older one that it looks like. Okay, I don't have an older one, but you guys probably know what the older one looks like. It doesn't look in a very good condition. So after removing that, what I do now is I will remove my vacuum cap. So you need this funny kind of a socket too, and just loosen this. sometimes the vacuum cap can be very tight, so you'll have to put it on a bench vise just to remove it. But if it is quite loose, you can just, you know, take it out like that with the hand. So then you can visually check this thing also to make sure that these holes are basically not blocked, because if they block, you won't have proper vacuum. And then you can also check your O-ring, but this one is in a very bad condition because of the coloring, showing that it has been used for so many months or years basically. So you can also check your diaphragm spring, but it is still working. And yeah, we'll get back to that when I reassemble. Then pull out your diaphragm, and you can see this one is really old. It's very bad, in a very bad condition. You can see also how the vacuum cap was seating on there. And then also you look inside there, and if you can see properly, but you can see inside there it's in a very dirty condition basically. So then I'll remove my main valve. Also just a screwdriver, and you can remove that. Sometimes they are also very tight, so you'll have to put them on a bench to remove it, but this one's quite easy. So alright, and it will just pop out, and you can just slide everything out like that basically. It should fall out. If it doesn't fall out, then it's seized inside there. So the first thing I'll check is this thing, the main cutoff valve, to see how in a condition this is, and check my seat of my poppet basically to see that it is seating properly inside there. So this one is in a very bad condition, but you can clean it up if you do put it in the ultrasonic cleaner for an hour. Then check your springs also to see that they're not badly rusted or anything. So these springs are very rusted. This one also not in a very good condition anymore. And then basically your pull rod, which is also not in a very good condition. This I won't reuse anymore because it's in a very bad condition. Right, so once that's removed, you got all your internals basically cut down. The only thing you still need to remove is your safety cutoff valve, which is here on top, and I just use my long nose, pop it in the head, and then it should just slide out. And this thing, you can also generally inspect it that the ball is still inside, and it is working basically. So, but those stuff you can replace because they are so cheap. Right, then what we're gonna do now is we'll remove that spout. So to get the spout out, you'll just need a spanner, maybe that size, or you can even just use like what I'm using. It's just a basic water pump pliers, and then once you pop that loose, it should turn out quite easily. If it doesn't turn out easily, then your threads are broken inside, and you'll have to just chuck the whole nozzle away because you can't rethread this thing inside here. So you can also visually check inside here that your O-rings are not damaged in any way, because it does have O-rings inside there. Once that you inspected that properly, then you can basically put this aside. I normally just put them in the engine cleaner for about say 10 to 15 minutes and then clean it up basically. So that's now disassembled the ZVA1, alright? So let me start on the ZVA2 for you guys, and I'll show you how I do that one also. So the same thing, I first check my back thread to make sure that the swivel can go inside here. If it can't go inside here, like with the hand, then I suggest don't even try refurbing it, because you're going to go through all the effort of trying to refurb this thing, and then at the end of the day you're just going to waste your time refurbing, putting in new parts, and you'll have to just basically have to just chuck the whole thing away and get the new parts taken out again, and it just makes your work double. So we remove the card, just pop this thing back, should slide out because these ones are quite better than the old type. If it doesn't, you'll have to just diver it up basically. You can also check your guards that there isn't any cracks here on the top here. So you see there is a crack there basically. So I don't want to use this again because I mean it's pointless refurbing it and it has a broken part on it. It doesn't look visually appealing. So here again, 2 screws, remove them. Once these are removed, you can also check them to see that they are in still a very good condition or they need to be replaced by checking the heads of the Phillip. If they're in a good condition, you can keep them. If they're in a bad condition, you can just remove. Now this one doesn't have a back screw, so this one I'll just remove like that. And then again I take my pin just to remove these pins basically. Don't worry about losing them, there should be millions laying around because there are lots of nozzles basically just laying around. Then just pop this off. You can also visually inspect this thing. So this is the old type because it has a metal holder basically for the back. So you know this is the old type, but if it is still holding when testing, you can always use it still. If it's not holding, then you can always chuck it away, but this one I will keep because it's still in a good condition. Then to remove your spout on this one, it's quite easy. It just has a spout pin, so you just pop this up like that with a screwdriver, and you can visually inspect this also to see that it is in a very good condition or it's in a very bad condition. Your O-ring you can pop out also and just inspect it that it is still soft and moving basically. If it's hard and you know not in a good condition, you can throw it away. If it's still in a good condition, you can keep it as a spare for when you run out of space and basically use it again. Then your spout, you just basically give it a twist and it should just pop out like that. Spouts we do replace because they are 99% of the time in a very bad condition. This one is not in a very bad condition, but you see the writing at the bottom compared to, I know it's not the same spout, but you can see there at the bottom of the spout there will be a writing on it. Normally it says made in Germany. So if that writing's not there, I normally chuck it because you know it just basically looks bad basically to me. Visually, you know, refurbing something and it doesn't look appealing. You're sending it to a customer at the end of the day also. So after removing that, I take my circular pliers and I remove my circlip that's holding my lever gland in. Again, pop that in, press down till you hear that click, and then it should pop out like that. And then you can also check this visually, but these stuff don't normally go, so I normally keep them as spares for when I don't have a brand new one, and I'll just keep them as a spare and replace them. Then again take my circular pliers, just remove my lever gland. So here you can see this lever gland is in a very bad condition, not good at all. It's basically fucked. So this one you can just throw away because it's not going to be worth anything anymore. Then when removing, oh yeah, another thing, when removing your poppet, first remove your diaphragm, because if you remove your poppet, the spring inside there will basically, when you pull out that diaphragm, it will shoot out. So first remove your vacuum cap and then you go inside internally basically. So again, screwdriver should be able to just loosen. If it can't, you know, you just put it on a bench, just take it out like that. So again, here you check your diaphragm spring, if it's still in a good condition or not. And you check also your vacuum cap O-rings. So what I normally do is just give it a clean up, just to see, because these vacuum caps don't do work really. They basically, once they're in, they're in. They don't move at all, they don't go anywhere. So just visually check them, check your O-rings. So you see the top O-ring is quite flatter than the bottom O-ring, so that is an indication to me that my top O-ring is finished, so I'll need to replace it. Right? Then again, remove your vacuum cap, your diaphragm, sorry. So you can check your diaphragm to see that it is in a good condition or in a bad condition. Normally it will have some wear on the edge, and you can also check the spacer, because if the spacer is worn, you can't use it anymore, so you'll have to replace it. So then take this thing, pop it to the side because it's still in a good condition, but you can replace it always, and always just check it out. So there again, take my circular pliers, I pop it in the cutter valve, the safety cutter valve, and I just pull this little safety valve out here. There you go. You see this one was broken, so now you got the piece inside your safety valve. I don't know if you can see it in there. It's in that small little hole over there. It's normally stuck, and if that thing is stuck in there, you will have to remove it to replace it basically. So you can just try with the circular pliers just to get it out. I know it's quite of a headache sometimes removing this thing. Okay, that one came out quite easily. Right, there it is. So that's your other piece of this puzzle. So if this thing is broken, it's pointless trying to fix it, because it doesn't have the ball inside, the safety ball that's inside there. So this you can also just chuck and get a new spare basically, right? Once that's done, you can remove your internals now, pop your socket in, and you just twist it out. It should come out easily. Okay, just turn this thing until it shoots. You see that spring inside there, so if you remove that this cutter valve first, you remove this thing first and pull your diaphragm out, that main spring inside there will shoot, poof. And if you're facing it like this, or you may be standing next to someone and it shoots into their face, you know you're gonna hurt someone. So that thing should just come out like that. There you can inspect your basically your pull rod on your ZVA2. So what I normally check for is, you see this little edge on side here, it shouldn't be too worn down, because your diaphragm gets a hole basically inside there, and then as your pull rod pulls forward, you basically open in the valve with the diaphragm, and that's how it creates a suction inside there. So if this thing is badly on there, it shouldn't hold, it won't hold anymore, and you will have a problem of basically the nozzle keeping on a high speed or on a low speed. Right, so you can check this visually. This one still looks in a very good condition to me, and then you have two springs inside there also, one small one, one big one, and they normally have to be also in a very good condition. This one needs to be quite strong, this one's not as strong as that one, but they both serve a very good purpose in basically keeping pressure while opening and closing, and cutting off also. They play a big part in cutting off. If they're not working right, you won't have a nice cut off on your ZVA2. Alright, so that's what it looks like inside over there, and I'm just gonna pause the video because I'm gonna clean. Okay, after basically now cleaning up the nozzles, so you can still see inside there, there's still quite some dirt on the edge there with the diaphragm layer. So what I normally do is I take a nice sharp flat screwdriver and I'll basically clean it physically with my hand and the screwdriver, just to make sure that the diaphragm does seat properly inside there, because that's your main purpose. If this thing is dirty, it won't basically seal properly. and you want a proper seal, and that will cause that your diaphragm won't be holding and you won't have cut off at all. You know, your safety cutoff won't work at all. So once it hits fluid, it won't cut off at all. So you basically give this a nice clean. You just want the edge basically where it's going to be sitting to be nice and clean. I'll show you now what I'm talking about. But you can see there, my edge is basically clean now. I'm not too worried about the other ends. I'm just more worried about where my diaphragm will be. Right, so I'm starting with the ZVA1. And the first thing I normally do is pop in this one. So this is normally supposed to have a small O-ring that runs on this. So what I normally do is I pop one of those the safety pin of the ZVA2. You know, this O-ring that goes inside there. I'll use the old ones that I have and just use them as a basic how can I say, O-ring holder, so that it doesn't move around. So this thing can go in any way which suits you, and it just pops in like that basically, so you can see it inside there. And then it shouldn't be able to, you should be able to hear the ball moving, then you know it's in basically properly. Alright, once that's in, you get your pull rod and your safety cutoff valve. Sorry about that, I had to just go fetch me a pull rod basically. So what I normally do with the pull rods is I take my, again, this clip for the hoses, and I just pull on it to see that my thing is basically working. So you'll see inside the pull rod it does have a small spring where the trigger goes through here, and this is basically your control of your pressure. So you know, I'll basically check that the spring is working nicely and that it is pulling and releasing the way it should be. Alright, and then with the spring, so the spring that's in a good condition, still looking in a very good condition. Pop that in there. And we got our safety cutter valve, so still clean inside basically. Also the back is still very clean. We have a brand new poppet, and pop that in there, and another spring that goes on top of that one. So this one basically goes inside over there, and then you got your main spring that holds the whole mechanism together basically. So what happens is when it's inside, it's normally sitting like this. So it's basically sitting like that, and then as your pull rod pulls forward, it releases pressure on this poppet here at the back, and it basically allows fluid to flow through it. And then when it cuts off, it shoots the pull rod back, and it should shoot this back into place basically. Right, so putting this in, you need some patience getting the nick of it, but I've already learned the way. So once you get it in like that, what I do is I just turn it from the side, and it should just, you know, once you got it in quite a bit, you can just turn it until it hits its point. You can put grease on the safety cutoff valve O-ring, but it's not necessary because it's a round thing. There's no edge inside there or anything that it can be hurt by, but you can do it. And then what I do is inside my, where the diaphragm goes in, I normally just make sure that thing is always lined up, because when putting in your lever and your diaphragm, you'll have a struggle getting it in properly. So once I got that on, let me put in my trigger and my diaphragm and my lever gland. So lever gland first, always the nipple area. I don't know if you can see that really, but you'll see there's like a nipple area and then there's a flat area. So the nipple area always goes face down and the flat area always face up. So rub some nice grease on there, pop that lever gland in, pop some grease on there. You can get a brand new spacer, but if your spacer is still in a good condition, you don't need to really get one. Just give it a nice clean, there's no dirt on it basically. You pop it inside there and get your circlip. Take your circlip and basically just squeeze it in, and then just push down till it basically locks into that groove inside there, because there is a groove that it should slide into so that your lever gland doesn't pull out in any way. So after doing that, take some grease and I rub it on my pin that runs through to my poppet. So I don't want to hurt the lever gland in any way while inserting this. So as much grease as you can, and then you leave your spout out when putting in your lever. Then you can see exactly where your poppet is, right? And you can just pop that in. And take two of these pins, these lever pins, and basically just set them in here. Set that one in there. Once that's in, you can check your lever is working now already. You can see if your pull rod is pulling properly, if it's releasing properly, and if everything is happy, you can start carrying on with the refurb. So once I did that, I will take my spout now, basically take some grease and pop it around this area on the front where the spout will be basically inserted. Also enough grease there, because you don't want to hurt those O-rings inside there when inserting this. And then once you got your thread, you just basically turn it on until it hits the second. You will feel it hit the second O-ring, and then from there just line it up and pop your screw for your holder, because this one doesn't have a pin, so you have to just tighten this quite a little so that it can't move anymore, right? Okay, now what I do is, the ZVA1 and the ZVA2 is different concerning one aspect. So you'll see on the ZVA2 it has a spacer, and on the ZVA1 it does not have a spacer. The reason for that is you'll see on the vacuum cap of this thing and the vacuum cap of this one, they have two totally different heads, and the one is smaller than the other. So on this one you'll see it has like quite of a sharp edge, and this one has a flat edge. The sharp edge is for the seating of the vacuum cap, the diaphragm inside there. So you just slide your diaphragm in, you take your diaphragm spring. What I normally do is I do give it quite a stretch, just to give it some strength again, you know. You can hold your vacuum cap in place nicely, pop that thing on. Once it catches some thread, I take some grease and I just pop it on this O-ring on the vacuum cap, because these aluminium does sometimes seem to cut the O-ring sometimes. So just to make life a bit easier, so that you don't damage your O-ring every time, just pop that grease on there and you tighten this thing. Right, and then just hand tighten it, not too much, don't go torque this thing dead. Right, then you can take your guard basically and slide your guard on. Take your two screws that you have that you basically still can use. Pop them in. Close up. Tighten those. And then you take your screw for the back. I didn't have one. Just get one. It normally takes this square, funny looking nut, and then normally one of these small screws, Phillips screws, popping at the back. Tighten that, and then you can now feel your nozzle, if it is feeling like a proper nozzle. So when you pull your trigger, you should be able to feel the tension on your springs. It shouldn't be easy, and it should push back. You shouldn't have really much play on your trigger, and it shouldn't be laying anywhere but at the bottom. So you can test that it is holding and that it's clicking off properly, and you can test the next one is holding, clicking off properly. We're done with that one now. Alright, so now we go back to our ZVA2. Like I said, I normally just clean it up, you know, make it look neat and tidy inside, take out all the dirt and stuff like that. What I do use is a toothbrush and a sponge, you know, that they use for washing up. I use one of those and a sponge, and I clean it with that. Basically, anything that has a nice scrubbing capacity, basically something that you can scrub nicely with. Alright, so now I start normally with my lever gland on my ZVA2s. So I'll just put some grease again on my lever gland. Again, the nipple area facing down, flat area facing up. Alright, I'll add my spacer. Add my circle. So what I do is, like this is now basically an old one that I'm using. So what I'll do is I'll basically open it up a bit, just to give it some strength again for the clipping area. And then you just close it, pop it in, and then just push it in basically. You will see it click inside that groove at the bottom. Once it's in there, I'm happy. And like I said, this pull rod is still looking very good, so you reuse it. ZVA2 is quite easier. All you need to do is line up the hole in the spring, and it will go in like that. And then you get you basically a brand new poppet, a new valve with a new poppet inside. It's working. What you can do with this also is you can add fluid on top of this area if you have an old one and you don't have a new one. Basically, I put some fluid on here just to see that it is seating properly. If it's not seating properly, then you know your poppet is gone now. So then again, you take some grease, just add grease to your O-ring so that you don't hurt it when inserting it now. Yeah, you will see the O-ring is quite far, so as it goes in, it basically seats in it, and then it shouldn't leak at all. So you slide that in over there and pop in your, and then you should feel the thread. You don't want to cross thread it at all. And you just tighten nicely. Alright, once that's in, like again, once your pull rod is in, you just line it up again, so it makes it a lot easier when assembling. Make sure your pull rod and your poppet is laying basically again the same way you did remove it. Right, So with this one, I normally put my spout in because you can see the pull rod and the pin where your lever goes in from the top, so you don't need to have an eye through the spout. So here again, you just add your little o-ring in there, goes now inside there, and just make sure that it is inside properly basically, because it does have a groove that it lines up into. There you go. And you take your spout bolt, because this one is in a very bad condition, it's just a bit corroded. You take a new one out like that. Take some grease and I just add it to this area where the o-ring is, just so that when you pop it in, it doesn't break that o-ring in any way, because if it breaks, then you'll have a problem with leaking spouts, and you know you don't want that, because it's gonna have to take off the guard again and all of that. So again, take off that, add some grease to your spout back area, and just slide that in over there. Alright, and then you put on your spout pin, and it should just click in with the finger. It's no hard hitting, nothing like that. It should just slide in with the finger, and you just wipe off all the excess grease that you did add to it basically. Then you take our new diaphragm. This one's a bit dirty, just check it that it's clean, check that it's not damaged in any way. Alright, it is inserted. Okay, now before you put on this, you put in your trigger, sorry, because you're gonna struggle to see the trigger going in. So okay, put some grease on your trigger, pop your trigger in. You should be able to see it come through there. I don't know if you can see it now, but you'll be able to see the pin basically, and then you just pop it in there. I know the ZVA2s normally go in harder because of that little on the lever. I'll show you now. On this lever there's quite of a big head. This round area is quite big, so I know it does go in harder than the ZVA1. So I just normally put it in and I slide my pins in. Slide my pins in. Okay. Sure they're in, okay, and then you test your trigger basically. It is holding. Right. Once that's in, I'm happy now. So now I can install my diaphragm. So again, just put your diaphragm down so that these things can be laying on the down area, so you're gonna struggle putting it in like this, and you have a long time. So like that, should slide in easily, and you can press down on your diaphragm and just see that it is holding. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Take your spacer, new spacer, pop that in and make sure that it is laying nicely on your diaphragm. Take your vacuum cap, and your diaphragm spring. So again, like I said, you just give it quite a stretch just to give it some strength again, so that it can hold nicely. And you pop that on there. Right. And then make sure it lines up with that little hole inside there. And then once that's in there, I normally go back first, and then once I feel my thread, I cut it. You know, because you don't want to cross thread this plastic up. You just eat the plastic up and any more thread on your plastic vacuum cap. So I'll just grease up my vacuum cap. Begin the screwdriver with this funny tool, funny socket 19. basically turn this on, and you also feel this one, basically hand tight. Clean off that excess grease that is now laying there on the vacuum cap. Okay, and then basically done again also. So now you'll just add your cord. So you'll just add your cord. And then again, take your, okay, I got two new screws basically. This is what they look like. So add my screws inside. Take my square bolt, put it in at the back. And then basically it's done now. So now you can check it that it is holding, and the spring system is working quite nice. So when you push down, it should release. There we go. So I'm happy with that now. So now I'm gonna move on to the testing.